Hi and welcome. Somebody wanted to have pillows. Here are pillows created with Blender, textured with 3D-Coat and imported into Unity. But let's start with Blender, again with a simple cube. The first thing I do is to add an edge loop here at the center, then select the left part of the cube, erase it, then switch again to object mode and add a mirror modifier. Okay, then let's add another edge loop, bring it to the inside, then with box select the right side of the cube, scale it down and bring it in to find a base shape for this pillow. Okay, I think that will work as a basic shape. Then let's add a subdivision surface modifier and add two edge loops and scale them in Z direction, and the same for the Y direction. Okay, then switch to object mode and to smooth shading. And this already looks a bit like a pillow. I will add one more edge loop here at the center and scale it down a little bit to have a kind of seam in the middle. Okay, then let's apply the modifiers, the subsurface modifier and the mirror modifier, and then I switch to sculpting, to sculpt mode, and use the grab brush to add some imperfections. But before, I disable the symmetry of the sculpting mode. I enable the madcap display, which gives me a better shading and helps me to add these imperfections using the grab brush. Yeah, and this doesn't look bad. I think we can go with that. I will add more imperfections to this pillow later on in 3D-Coat by painting some height information into the textures. Now let's scale this down, rotate it, and I think the center of the geometry is alright. And then we can export this model as FBX and import it into 3D-Coat for texturing. Select Export, FBX, and then open up 3D-Coat, Voxel Sculpting, and then choose Import for per pixel painting, and select the FBX we just exported. Okay, I try to do an auto mapping. This means that 3D-Coat is going to calculate the UV map. I'm choosing smooth shading by keeping the edges. And then I press OK, and let's see how this will look like. Very good, and now let's have a look at the UV layout. And I think the auto unwrapping does a really good job for this object. Alright, then let's find a smart material for texturing this pillow. Okay, after I selected a smart material, the curvature is calculated, and then you can use this preview panel to see how the model will look like when you fill it with that material. Okay, that's really cool, but it won't fit the couch model that we created, so I think I will stick to this gray material. Yeah, that's a nice one. Okay, now I will give this layer a name. I will name it fabric, and then I will add a new layer to add some imperfections to this pillow, which I will paint in by just using height information. I won't paint in color or glossiness, so I will disable these channels. You can do this here, disable the color and disable the glossiness, and just keep the height information active for painting. You won't change the geometry by that approach, you're just painting in height information, and after you painted this in, you can hold the Shift key down and smooth out areas or edges that are too hard. And this is the approach I'm taking here for this model. I paint in height information and then I smooth out some parts of it. You can also switch the brush. For example, use this one. Then I hold the Control key pressed, and then it is like carving into this model. You see, you are creating very hard edges here, but then I come with the Shift key pressed and smoothing out some parts. And this is my workflow to create a low poly pillow that looks like a high poly model. And when you're searching a little bit in YouTube, you will see that there are a lot of creating pillow tutorials, but most of the time the result is a very high poly mesh. For that you have to do retopo, but using this approach you don't have to do this. You're painting in height information to your low poly model, and when you're done you will export out the model, the height, the normal maps and the albedo textures. And these textures you can use in the game engine of your choice, like Unreal Engine 4 or Unity or whatever. But let me show you how you can do this. Before exporting, I will give this material a name, and I will call this material pillow. This will be the name of the material you export to your game engine. Okay, now let's export this out. Choose File, Export Objects and Textures, and we will export the albedo, the normal map, the height map and the FBX directly into the folder of our Unity project, and then we can drag the pillow into our scene. It's a little bit too small, I see here, so we have to increase the size, scale it up, and then we can assign the textures to it. First drag the diffuse texture to the albedo slot, then the height map, and then the normal map. You can vary here the intensity of the normals, and I'm choosing a value of about 0.3. Alright, that's it. Now you can duplicate this pillow a few times and arrange it for this couch model. Okay, let's start the game and see how this will look like in real life. Yeah, great, I like it. And this was the next asset we added to this room. Many more assets will follow, and for each one I will create a tutorial. If you like this, please subscribe to my channel here, and it would be also really great if you could support me on my Patreon, and perhaps someday I can go full time with that. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and come back soon to JNM.